Hi everyone, Flaming Footy here and welcome back to another YouTube video on the channel. And today guys, here we are for another 3-game match reviews of the 2022 AFL season. Here we are at the end of round 20 already. Cannot believe it. This season has gone so fast, but the games keep on getting bigger and bigger as we go further and further. And again, to end off round 20, 3 more massive games. So 3 more massive games. We learn a lot more about every team, all 6 teams in this 3-game match review. So we're going to go ahead, not waste too much time. Going to go ahead, hop right into things. Gold Coast versus West Coast, Richmond versus Brisbane, and Essendon versus North Melbourne. All of Sunday's footy action. First up, Sunday Arvo footy, Gold Coast versus West Coast. So the Battle of the Coast started out Sunday's footy action at Medcon Stadium, first game on a Sunday, and Gold Coast 16-11, 107, beat the Eagles 16-8, 104 by 3 points. 3 singular points. You cannot believe that. West Coast, I have criticised them hard, actually, about one aspect of their game, and that is their last quarters, and they did a lot better in that aspect of the game. But I've gone back, if you go back and watch the match reviews where the Eagles played the Blues and the Eagles played the Saints, you will know what I'm talking about, where they just, and even when they played the Hawks, where they just don't have a good enough last quarter. And in this game, they did everything right, but they just left it too late. So, unfortunately enough, they just cannot nail all aspects of the game. Can West Coast right now have Adelaide next week? It is the perfect chance to fix things up. But I'll tell you, Adelaide is not an easy win. They are pretty tough. But Gold Coast, they were just the better of the sides, especially for the first half. They were really good in the first half. 10 goals to 5 at at half time. In the third quarter, the Eagles did win the quarter. Then the Suns kicked the first 2 goals of the last quarter, or maybe, well, I don't know whether, I think that, no, they kicked the first goal of the last quarter, and things got interesting there, and then the Eagles just kicked the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 goals, to be down by like a couple of points. The Suns kicked one, a couple of behinds, and the Eagles kick a couple of behinds, but it was a ripping finish, for sure. West Coast played a really nice last quarter, which is something that they've needed to fix up for a few parts, well, for a few games this year. If they had a good last quarter, they would have won the game. But it was a ripping game of footy. Gold Coast were, in the end, the better of the sides, and they do keep their finals hopes alive. The door is open. It is slightly open. They'll have to, everything would have to go right from here, though. Tuke Miller, 31 disposals. Jack Darling, 6 goals, a bag of 6. 122 fantasy for Miller, 10 tackles for Tuke Miller. The Tuke Miller show up at Medcon Stadium. 122 fantasy for Tuke Miller, 110 for Darling, 107 for Redden, 106 for Gaff, 102 for Swallow, 101 for Hearn. 6 goals for Darling, 5 goals for Troll. Them two absolutely dominated up at Medcon Stadium. Then 3 goals for Rankin and Petricelli as well. 2 for Ryan, Rosa, Sharp, Redden. That's how it went. Troll and Darling combined for 11 goals. Tuke Miller, 31 disposals, 29 for Anderson, 28 for Kelly, 26 for Hearn, 24 for Shuey. Now to the marks, 11 for Gaff and Barras, 8 for Ryan and Darling, 7 for Foley and Duggan. Now to that, those are all West Coast players as well. Tackles, 10 for Miller, 9 for Swallow, 8 for Holman, 6 for Lemons and Kelly. Now to the hitouts we go. 35 for Witts, 30 for Nadanui, 11 for Williams, 1 for Troll and Casbolt. So now to the team stats we go, where the Eagles had more of the footy, but Gold Coast went inside 50 17 more times, which penultimately won them the game. Now, West Coast went inside 50 40 times, which was actually quite a low amount for what the score they got. They got 104 on the board. That was their score. And they went inside 50 40 times. So, again, need to go inside 50 a little bit more than that, but still managed to relatively go very efficient inside 50, however, which is nicely done by West Coast. But clearances was all in favour of Gold Coast. They smashed them in that aspect, did Gold Coast. More uncontested footy, however, to West Coast. More marks to West Coast, more marks inside 50 to West Coast, more contested marks to West Coast. But it was the Gold Coast Suns that did lead for majority of the game. I do feel like they were deserving winners, although their last quarter did let them down. They almost choked it. But in the end, they were just the better of the sides. Their finals hopes are still alive. But yeah, pretty disappointing last quarter but it was a ripping finish at Metcon. Well, we had two rippers, including two Queensland teams, hey, on the Sunday footy. Back-to-back, Richmond 15-14, 104, beat the Lions 14-13, 97. I was worried about this game because I saw that the Lions had jumped out of the blocks early. I tipped Richmond, and boy, I'll tell you, I was relieved when I found out they won because I was interested in the last quarter. It was going to be an exciting last quarter. But yeah, the first half, you could really say, Richmond kicked 7 goals to 2. Brisbane kicked 7 goals to 2 in the first quarter, and then kicked 4 more to the Tigers, 3 in the second. And they're up by 42 points. Right at that stage, right there, they're up by 42 points. And they were still well above 30 points at half-time. In the third quarter, the tide starts to change. Richmond, they kick 6 goals. Brisbane kicked 2, and then the final quarter, Brisbane kicked 1, Richmond kicked 4, and the Tigers win by 7. Darcy Gardner made a big turnover, and that is where the game was lost. Noah Cumberland also was really good for the Tigers, but one thing that I do want to highlight before we move on is that Brisbane had a ripping first and second quarter, well-deserved, praised if you'd like, but the third and fourth quarter were horrible. So they had 11 goals at half-time, right? They finished with 14 for the game, and really by a top side that's trying to break a hoodoo at the MCG, this was their chance, and they just did not take it at all. Now, they had 11-6 at half-time, they finished 14-13, it's inaccuracy again. You could almost blame that for the Lions, but again, I wouldn't really be wanting to take your chances by blaming inaccuracy. I would just say Richmond were the better side in the second half, and that's why they won. But it was a ripping game of footy in the end. The Tigers led for barely any, but in the end, they get the 4 points. Lockie Neal, 31 disposals, 5 goals for Cumberland after last week playing on the sign for the draw. Much more impressive performance by him. 114 fantasy for Bolton, 8 tackles for Trent Cotchin. Scenes, though, at the MCG, and why wouldn't there be when a team records a win like that? 114 fantasy for Bolton, 105 for Cotchin, 100 for Neal and McCluggage. Goals behinds, 5 for Cumberland, 4 goals, 3 for Hipwood, 4 goals for Lynch, 3 for Danaher. Now, 2 goals, 5 for Bolton. So again, I always say it's when players have an inaccurate afternoon that he could have easily walked away with 4 goals next to his name. 2 for Cameron, Revolt, McCarthy as well. Now, disposals, Neal 31, Coleman 30, 26 for Pressy, 26 for McCluggage, 25 for Zorko, 24 for Cotchin and Bolton. Now to the marks, 9 for Vlosten, 8 for McStay, 7 for Lynch and Bolton. Tackles, 8 for Cotchin, 7 for Short, 6 for Lyons, 5 for Pressy, Zorko, Neal. Hit outs, 31 for Nankervis, 24 for McInerney, 13 for Fort, 4 for Miller, 3 for Bolter. Now to the team stats we go, where the Lions went inside 56 more times than the Tigers, 48-54. What else is here? Free kicks locked at 23. The Lions won clearances. They were more damaging. They were plus 10 in stoppage clearances. The Tigers plus 1 at centre. What else? Is there anything else? Yes, 17 marks for the Lions. 17 more marks for the Lions. They led for most of the game. They led for 101 minutes. But again, Richmond, they just clawed their way back in the second half and were the better side in the second half. Brisbane, they choked a 42-point lead. And, yeah, that's the biggest comeback of the year so far, I believe. Biggest comeback of the year to Richmond when they choked the biggest comeback of the year a couple of weeks ago. They choked a 40-point lead and the Suns went after the siren. And here they go, now getting payback. And on the team called Brisbane, they get payback. So they lost to a Queensland team after the siren, choked the biggest margin. They get payback on the other. Funny how that one works. That's interesting there. That is very interesting. But Richmond were the better of the sides in the second half, and penultimately that is what seals the deal. Brisbane had the first half, Richmond had the second half, Taylor 2 halves, but in the end, Richmond were the better of the sides, winning by 7 points in crazy scenes and a crazy ripping game. Now to the final game of the round, Essendon 17-12, 114, smashed North Melbourne 9-12, 66. North Melbourne, they looked good a couple of weeks ago, but are right back to their very worst again, and that is very poor when we see that happening. This game finished about 15 minutes ago, but yeah, it was a Bomber demolition from the start. They started off welcoming 5-4 in the first quarter, and then at half-time they were up by 4 goals. And then you really knew North weren't really going to be coming back from there. And then in the third quarter, they bang on 4 more goals than North Melbourne's 2, and then just finish it off in the last, pile on the pain, and end up winning by 48 in the end. The Bombers, they've turned their season around from a point where it was at misery early on to now a point where it's actually been a respectable season and they've been okay. So the Bombers, they've done all right in this season, and they've got the Giants next week at Giants Stadium. Could be an interesting game, but Jai Simpkin, 41 disposals, 5 goals for Jake Stringer, 172 fantasy for Merritt, 10 tackles for Zach Merritt. But yeah, Essendon all over North Melbourne. 172 fantasy for Merritt, such an important player at the club. 139 for Redmond, 126 for Simpkin. These are some very high numbers. 113 for Langford, 112 for Stevenson, probably one of the best games he's played all year, Jaden Stevenson. 110 for Laverde, or that's based on fantasy numbers for Stevenson. 110 for Laverde and Heppel, 109 for Stringer. Goals behinds now. 5 goals for Stringer. Could have easily made that 6 or 7 had he been a little bit more accurate, but 5-3 still not bad. 4 goals for Zerha, such an important piece of North Melbourne. 3 for Stewart, 2 for Wright and Langford as well as Jones. Now, Larkey, 0 goals, 3. He struggled to have an impact, and you can see there when North Melbourne don't have Larkey going, they tend to be off as well. He had the 0 goals, 3. An inaccurate day in front of the Big Six, you could say, for Larkey, but kept quiet. Which, it's not that hard to beat North Melbourne, not going to lie. Sorry, North Melbourne fans, but you're just not going through a great stage of the club right now. 41 disposals for Simpkin, 38 for Merritt, 34 for Stevenson, 32 for Redmond, 28 for Heppel. Now the marks, 12 for Laverde, 10 for Redmond and Langford as well as Heppel and Durham. 9 for Hines, Kelly, Horn, Francis. Tackles, 10 for Merritt, 7 for Stringer, 6 for Snelling, Archer. 5 for Langford, Simpkin. Hitouts, 35 for Draper, 22 for Goldie, 6 for Wright, 4 for Coleman Jones. Now team stats, where the Bombers went inside 50 way more times than the Roos, plus 11. They opted to go by kick more, which again, the Roos opted to go by handball, which I've said this a few times, actually in some more recent match reviews. 1 handball too many in the chain, and you can absolutely lose all the hard work you've gone. So kicking is probably a bit more of an efficient way. You see the Bombers going at 83% disposal efficiency now. That's good. That's really good. And then they won the hitouts, but actually, this is alarming. I've never seen this happen really before. 22-42, North Melbourne won clearances. 6-20, they were up by 14 at centre clearance. That is insane. And then plus 6 at stoppage. So they were all over the Bombers in clearances. So we're showing their midfield room is okay. But then the Bombers destroyed them. Everywhere else they had more uncontested footy, did the Bombers, which means they must have been finding gaps, took way more marks, must have just been tripping the ball around, finding more gaps. Like, you just trip here, the defender runs off, you trip over their head, the defender runs off, you trip over their head, so etc. You can really, if you can mess with a team like that, you can move from one end of the ground to the other with such ease. And again, the Bombers were in front for most of the game, deserving winners in the end, laid more tackles, put more pressure. And even though North can get the clearances, but you put on the pressure, and the ball can be going right back down your way, which is exactly what Essendon did for a big win at Marvel. So it was a big round of footy in round 20. Melbourne smashed the Dockers on Friday night. The Pies win another close game over the Power. The Swans smashed the Giants. The Saints get over the Hawks. The Cats easily managed the Dogs. The Crows upset the Blues and easily managed them in the end. The Suns get over the Eagles. The Tigers get over the Lions in the biggest comeback of the year by 42 points. They came back and they won by 7. And then the Bombers smash North Melbourne. So round 21 now, what have we got? Second versus third on the Friday night. Could be one of the biggest Friday nighters we've seen all year between Melbourne and Collingwood. Fingers crossed we're getting a close game, because if I was to go back, and I'm not going to do this, but I really could go back. How many good Friday nights have we had this year? Most of them have been smashing. So hoping for a close game here. And Collingwood, they are the masters. So if it's a close game, you'd back Collingwood to win. Hawthorn and the Suns at Utah Stadium. Now, this could be, again, one of the biggest games of the round, but Hawks are pretty good down there, so I'd be pretty confident in them. The Giants and the Bombers. These two teams do have traditionally close games. Will it be another? The Doggies and the Dockers at Marvel. The Dockers have really slipped off in the past couple of weeks. This is the Doggies' perfect chance to get a win, jump back into the top 8, because the Saints play the Cats, which they'll probably end up losing the Saints because the Cats are so strong. Port Adelaide do battle with Richmond same time Saturday night. Port Adelaide are out of the hunt. Richmond are still fighting for finals. They have to win. I reckon we've got a close game there. North Melbourne versus Sydney, first game on a Sunday, Marvel. Sydney, their top 4 aspirations are heating up now, and they need to win this game. Brisbane play Carlton at the Gabba. Carlton really poor showing last week versus Adelaide, so they'll probably end up getting smashed against one of the best teams in the competition, Brisbane. And then West Coast versus Adelaide finishes off. Could be an absolute ripping game in the West. Now to the ladder, however. Now, will the live ladder be on? The Bombers 28. So yes, I think it is on. I am correct. It is on. So the live ladder has already been updated. The Cats are game clear. On top, the Demons and the Pies both on 56 points. Sydney and Brisbane are both on 52. Brisbane are lost a spot in the top 4 now. And could this very well Cats, Demons, Pies, Swans be the way the top 4 ends up finishing? The Lions sit in 5th on 52. The Dockers draw a couple of rounds ago sends them into 6th on 50 points. Carlton 48 points, not in the finals just yet. And the Saints are a game behind them on 42 points. The Tigers are on 44 points, for the Saints. 42 points is Richmond. That draw could end up saving their season, or it could end up harming it. And the Western Bulldogs sit on 40 points in 10th. You think it's too late for the Gold Coast Suns to make their move now, who are on 36 points. Port Adelaide are done on 32. Hawthorn and Essendon sit a game behind the Power, so they could overtake the Power if things do go their way. Essendon and Port Adelaide will be clashing later on in the year, so that's going to be interesting to see how that one plays out. Could be fighting out for 12th spot. Port Adelaide could slip as low as 14th by the end of the year, if you can believe that. Adelaide, if they win all their last 3 games, they could maybe go up even above the Power. Who knows, but I doubt that would happen. And the Crows sit in 15th, trying to get out of the bottom 4 on 24. The Giants sit in 16th on 20 points. And then North Melbourne and West Coast. Well, West Coast 17th, 8. 18th, North Melbourne, 8. So, that's going to wrap us up for another 3-game match reviews. 3 absolute high-scoring games here, actually. High-scoring games. But anyway, thank you guys all so much for watching. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. See you guys in another video on the channel. Thank you guys all so much for watching. Bye, everyone. Flaming Footy out.